more video in English language. The German one is not satisfactory and not designed for everyone. I agree to that. I'm quite busy, lots of things to do around. And still I'm gonna do it for you. And it's Friday, it's 1 hour before kickoff of the Bundesliga 2, so I'm gonna watch that in a second or in half an hour. So I'll be through with this one in quite some shorter time, at least. Okay, what have we got? I'm gonna try a different format every time, at least, so I don't want to bore myself. I mean, if I'm not boring you, or I do, not sufficiently, well, at least I'm trying not to bore myself. Okay, so try something new. Anyway, you have seen this before, but still you will notice in a second there's something new to it. We got the famous old table, and we got the points expected for the teams. How many have they got? So this is very close for Bayern. How many they should have had, which is clearly less. So they didn't play so well. 19.6, you could compare this as well with a 16.01 expected, which is, so they scored a lot better. They should have scored just 14, they scored 19. Of course, some easy goals when you're winning, like against Köln, and it's 1-0, 2-0, and in the end 4-0, and also against Mainz, when it was 6-1 or so, then you score some easy goals. Anyway, so you can check this for every team. But as soon as this figure is higher than this one, you can say they played well. So you tend to support them. And if this figure, both of them, they are bigger than this, which is mostly the case in lower placed teams, you got some reason to support them. Although market usually knows these things, so we have to check our figures and my figures, the way I compile them, and in the end work out whether or not we are happy in case something is indicated. Then I still have to check all the things around in football game. We got plenty of goals, 3.26, expected 3.22, should 3.19. We got this for every league. Here I just have those pairings, some more information about it concerning the conversion rate, which is quite a complex thing to explain. Anyway, here are the goal expectancies. You can copy that, pause the video, take that down. Here you got the over 2.5 and under 2.5. Why this is highlighted, I don't know. I've done that one day, but now here we are coming down to the bets, which might be most interesting for you. And I'm not gonna weigh them. I'm not gonna recommend this. You gotta play with 6 units. This one you gotta play more carefully with 1 unit or 8 units or whatever. I'm not gonna do this. And this is not what I'm gonna do on Monday too. So I'm just have the bet here. It's 1 unit, so to say. Of course, you can check this here. If I say true old, this is my old system. This is compiling a true price of 1.67. The new one is even below. I'm allowed to adjust this old system manually. So if the new one teaches me and it tells me things like that, for example, Hertha, if you compare this with that, then they played worse than expected. If you compare this for Düsseldorf, they played better than expected. If you compare these two, 7.1 and 6.114, you could even argue that Düsseldorf played better so far. In this moment, it's not yet taken into account what kind of opposition they had. As Hertha did play Bayern, for example, this lowered their expectancies. Still, you can compare these two and you can say, well, if anything, I'm going to take Düsseldorf. If market confirms this with a bet or the other way around, you're going to check your figures. You say, oh, this is indicated. Why is it indicated? Oh, I know why they played well. They are. And there's market assessment as well, general assessment saying Düsseldorf are no good. And they seem to be proven right, which is not quite the case. But I was unhappy with Düsseldorf also pre-season, because market says such a fine season, so they're going to repeat that in some sense, right? They are not adjusting this by too much, which I have done. Because I said Luke Bacchio was the main striker there, and he was the main man. And I discovered this very early in the season in a game against Gladbach. And I thought, what is this for a guy? They got up front there, and it was Hertha signing. So he went to Hertha, to their current opposition, tonight's opposition opponent, but for 20 or even more, 20 million, at least it was record signing for Hertha, I think. And so this proves his value. And of whether or not Hertha are right to pay this amount, it doesn't matter that much. But still, it would tell us he's pretty good. And he was responsible partly for this. They lost the game in Gladbach, if I remember correctly. They lost it badly, 4-0 even, or something like that. You could check that. But I still discovered this guy up there. And then he was in Munich, he scored 3 goals and so on, which raises the value of a player. Because scores 3 goals against Bayern Munich, which is, of course, it's his task to score the goals. The other 10 players are as valuable and should be rated as highly. But of course, if you see him scoring the goal, and of course, it may be right that he was outstanding, which is possible. But in those situations, maybe it was just he was clear on goal and he just put the ball away. Anyway, it is indicated, we are happy with it, so this is my first bet. If we talk about Freiburg, you can read that. It's still, Dortmund has been busy midweek, which means a little bit, but they are used to that. They did not convince me fully in their display in Prague, because I think Prague did at least deserved a draw, I would say. And so they are happy with the points, but it's some distraction. Freiburg are doing well. Of course, they are doing way too well, and they even played worse than expected, which means a bit to me. But still, this is just too big a margin to give them 1 goal. Although it's a home side, so quite a few things against that as well. But if the figures say so, I can hardly say I'm totally wrong with that. I mean, the new system is about the same, and I didn't take much influence there. So it simply says it's too big a margin, and Freiburg are not doing anything wrong. I mean, if you say the efforts are low, you could also argue, well, as long as you get the result on your side, well, okay, go ahead. I mean, what are you worried about? And they had a couple of fine wins, because that's just this goal difference of +8, when the games are just +3, 4 wins over 1 loss. It means they won by a margin in many of them, virtually all of them. Leipzig +1/4. I mean, you have to check those prices, and as I saw, there had been some movement already, and so I took that down maybe on Wednesday, I guess, and when I check that later, it's gonna move. I can't tell the direction. There are other punters that know a lot better which way it's gonna go. I do not know this so well, so as soon as I take it down, I'm ready to go for it. And if the price rises, okay, it's sometimes I have an idea which way it's gonna go, but usually I don't. So I'm not the expert on that. But you gotta check that. I think my Leipzig went down a bit, but it can change any moment. Anyway, this would still be my recommendation, as at least if you get this price, of course. Both had been busy midweek with losses. So it's meaningless for this one, because it's the same kind of result. I don't know why this lighting is so terrible here. I mean, I even switched it on this time. It's getting dark outside here. It's a rainy day. Anyway, I would go for Leipzig. We got Hoffenheim. Of course, we can check up here. Always this one. So Leipzig played worse than expected. Leverkusen actually played better. So this, I would have the same reasoning, like recommending Düsseldorf. It would be the same thing here. I think in this case, I would be a bit. What is the word for it? Well, I would have some excuses for Leipzig. They had been okay. Well, I mean, it's fine. They play on one level, you could say, more or less, right? But you got the away side, which is a very good reason to always consider, right, these days. because at the moment it's the home sides are losing in the Bundesliga, so there's no home advantage. And I was talking about this quite a bit and explaining this, and you can be sure. Of course, they try to correct that, the home sides, but it's a tough task. You saw that in midweek in Champions League as well. Home sides are struggling at the moment. It's the way that football is played. It's being played, and it's especially the way that the rules are being applied, by not protecting the striking units. They are, whatever they do, they have, yeah, they are accused of, yeah, they are stopped their attacks, while the defenders can do anything, especially handle the ball inside the area, and there's nothing, no penalty, especially. Anyway, we got Hoffenheim. This is just a city one. Forget about it. But as we saw, but Hoffenheim also did not even play that low level that I set them to, because also they lost some players and so on. So I set them lower, but they even played worse. But Bayern played a bit more worse. But I would hardly argue about such a bet. I mean, this is one for the fancy man. If you like it, go ahead. If you don't, very welcome, because it's not much fun betting these lines. It's just a line, right? I mean, they don't care for your money, right? They care they want to draw if it's possible. If it's 0-1, 0-2, 0-3, they don't care, right? So they are not going with your money. They don't care for your money. Paderborn it's just one for sympathy reasons. They had been playing well. They got never rewarded. But Mainz is very similar to that. And if you compare these two figures, they played at one level, which means, again, you could go with a home side, but on the other hand, there is no home advantage. It's just, forget about it. It's just, I'm going to count it in on Monday, but I'm not proud of this one. Köln I like a lot, but this price seems to be moving a bit, I think, because Schalke are no good. I mean, I don't know why they are praising them or for what. It's like 2 years ago. They played a bit better than expected, but if you look at this figure, I mean, it's as low as Freiburg, but it's even as no better than Köln, for example. They are even worse than Köln. And if you compare it with the expectancies, Köln played a lot better than that. And Köln just deserves something better. And this is just a very, very, very mad line. I mean, why market went so wrong? Because Schalke are just praised all over, but I can't see a good reason for that. If we take Werder, that one is fine. Frankfurt did a good job on Thursday. They won in Guimarães, but still it's some extra business. But they are the one that most beat their expectancies. So you got very good reason to stay away from that one, because Frankfurt are just playing well, while Werder are not even playing on that level I expected. So I expected them to be a bit better, which you could say it's one level more or less, but Frankfurt played better. Still, you get half a goal, and they had been busy on midweek, and I just like it, but usually you have this injury problem, but as far as I know, it's a lot better now. But the market is going to rule that, but I think this price may have gone up a bit. But maybe for the win for Frankfurt or for the team use, which is very good reasoning. But I like it a bit, and I still think Werder are a bit underrated, but as you see up there, Frankfurt deserving some support. But half a goal for a home side at the moment is actually ridiculous. So why should Werder be half a goal worse? It's a low price, so this is adjusting this to 0.3 goals already. Hertha Düsseldorf is an over. I could easily argue with that. But if the goal performance is plus, which means there had been more goals than expected, you can easily go for it, because it's just fine. You can argue, anyone can argue, well, Düsseldorf, no, they lost a couple of games. It's a game from two lower half sides, so they're going to go carefully. I'm never trusted that or this approach. I'm going my way, but still you need to get the money at some point, right? You have to win those bets. But I can't say at which point, well, which one, it's very hard to judge. You lose some, you win some. In the end, you need to find, the record needs to be fine in the end. And you can hardly say this is a bad one, so go away. In Freiburg, the under is a bit ridiculous, I have to admit, because in this case the goal performance is clearly above, which means there had been more goals, but 5.97 is not that much. Usually it goes along with the line, with the site, because if you got +1, it starts to be a bit, the market favors Dortmund a bit too much, and so the under is a bit more likely. But the new system is not even certain about it, because it says 1.91, this is 9.94, so you could happily ignore it in conjunction with a goal performance, which is obviously, well, this figure is adjusting to that, and so on. So why the old system is so careful, so to say, with the goals, I'm not sure. Sometimes it's a matter of home and away and things like that, which I can't look up right now. Sometimes I check that. I don't have to every time. I know what my figures are doing in general, so either I like it, I do not like it. So I put it here on my figures. I'm going to think about it, and I will do a very correct assessment of all the bets. So I'm not going to remove it for the Monday evaluation, so you can see whether or not I'm doing okay with all the things that had been placed here, even though there may be no money on them. Leverkusen Leipzig I like a lot. It's sometimes, their goal performance is almost neutral with plus 1.7, which is not a lot, and here you see a huge margin. And sometimes it happens that in this is my computer's logic, right? I programmed it, sure, and I'm certain it's fine. But sometimes I can just see that, and of course the figures will tell me. But why did they invent this term? They neutralize each other, because this is the case when very good attacking sides meet very good defensive sides. And if it's neutralized, it means it lowers the total somehow, because it's I could show that mathematically, but it would lower the totals in some sense. Just the average would go down a bit. It's not, very obviously, then it would be in every game, so to say, that Leipzig, if they meet Hertha or any other Freiburg or Schalke also, you could also say, well, then it's an under because they neutralize. No, this is bringing down the value just a bit less, but meaningless. But if it's for Düsseldorf, for Leverkusen, for Leverkusen against Leverkusen, they bring it down from 1.7 goals on average, and if they take off a percentage from these 1.7, this weighs more than you take off this percentage from 1.2 goals for Schalke also, if it's the same percentage, which is the case. Anyway, and so they neutralize each other. Sometimes it's also a matter of home away, which I'm not showing this time. I might get back to that, but I can't introduce every, all the figures that could be relevant at some point, right? There's a lot you have to watch out for, and so on. And also to prove your own figures, so to say, or my own figures, I have to check that every day. Anyway, I'm talking a lot already. This under, of course, is ridiculous. It's won by figures, but the goal for performance is fine. All I can say is Hoffenheim are still treated by market like an oversight, which they are not. They're just 14. How many goals? 14 goals in 6 games or something like that. 14 goals in 6 games, so that's just an average of 2.33, right? So there are no goals in their games for whatever reason. You can check that if they deserved it, but very well they did, because, well, at least to be an under, because that's a 9.03 and 8.22. If they scored just 4, okay, but it's the right direction. 9.64 against, they should have had 10.78, but here they are close anyway. So anyway, it's definitely not an oversight at the moment. And this is market still carrying forward this from last season when they had been over. But they are not anymore. They changed their coach, so everything's different. Market does not know where to look and what to compare it with. So they just go on, this last season's like this, so I'm going to continue like this. And then see what happens. And if the punters are not wise enough, they would confirm that, and nothing happens, because market's just happy. Some are going for the over, some for the under. Our prices are fine. We pay out this. We receive this much money. So nothing happened. But we could exploit that. Germany too. I'm gonna go to very quickly now because I spent too much time already for the Bundesliga 1, but I tried to comprise these 2 weeks this time. Anyway, we got this ranking, we got this table. Here you can once again compare that. We can check that with the bets. There are plenty of indications which sometimes you may not really like, and so on. And it's pretty late now, so you will have to speed up quite a bit and check my video and then still go for it. Well, for tonight, it's just maybe this one bet, so you can do the others. You got some time for that. But the Wien is the one for tonight. Here you see the pairings. These two are played tonight. If there's an over, yeah, there's an over in Darmstadt Karlsruhe. So for these, you had to hurry. The others, you may take your time. But this over. Anyway, if Wien is indicated, it's just, this is just too heavy a line, and I could prove that also with some kind of naive fallacy, if you want so, because if you see these figures here, the points they should have had, that's 10.27 and that's 13.83. So they may be 3.5 points better if you divide this by 8. Then you would have half a goal per game, which is okay. I would accept that, half a goal better. And then home advantage, which could be 0.3 goals. Then you would have 0.8 goals for the game, because you can just add up these goals. It's very different, but very easy logic in my program. Even if there were such a if there was this home advantage that you got used to of 0.3 goals, then you would have 0.8 goals. And nowhere near 1.5. And this is also what my computer does. And it's 0.9 it's doing here, right? This is the difference between them. And by no means it's 1.5 goals. If market looks at this and says, well, 14.7, or no, let's say those 20 points against those 4 points, then you would have 16 points difference, divide this by 8, then you have a difference of 2 goals plus the home advantage, right? So this is somewhere in between, it has to be, but those 4 and 20 are clearly exaggerated. Then so market somewhere adjusts these to 4 and 8, and they maybe to 16, which is still way too much, so in both directions. So they should be adjusted to 14 and they to 10, which no one would do, right? They are losing their games, they are bad, so that's what they see and what they say. But this is just mathematical, and if you like it or not, I mean, this will be indicated all day long. And I can prove that, so to say, because the differences are not big enough in this league, because this is just a modest superiority. While against Darmstadt it would even look a bit different, because they are even a bit higher in the table, but they played worse. And while Wien actually did play quite okay, now they won their game, which is another plus for the bet, because now they are off the mark, right? They started going, because now they think, well, maybe why shouldn't we win another point, because now we won a game, and so on. So some more reason for that. Still, it's a very silly line that you can't beat, and I would, this is why I I never like it. And if I have to place it here, or I can always say, well, watch out with your money. I mean, I don't like it, especially if you see that being a goal down and sending the goalkeeper up, and you say, well, could you please stay behind? But he doesn't, and then they concede the second, and you just get mad about that. This is why I wouldn't recommend it. It's the same thing here in the third game, because they are playing in Hamburg. We could do the same naive fallacy, as I said, and it would never be this much of a difference. They played well, although they were terrible in the last game. But still, those 11.58, you see that it's not even 3 points between them. Divide this by 8, and so on, and you get 0.7 difference, but not 1.25. And what would the computer say? It would even make it 0.96, because somehow recognizing, I can hardly say all the points, because it's not the only thing that goes into the calculation, right? There's a basic evaluation of the teams. Fürth did do better. There's a home away, which is sometimes in favor of the home side, and so on, which could be the case here. I'm not checking this ranking right now. I might do, but I'm not going to do it. I know that it's never going to reach this much, and I'm quite happy that my computer already says. It's also a matter of, as if you see here, of the conversion rate, because this is 4.15, so they are taking their chances well. Whether it's at home or not, you can't really see in these figures here, but they are not taking their chances so well. Or Hamburg are defending well. It's a mixture of these two. They are taking well, they are defending well. So to say, Hamburg are taking their chances better than average. You can see that here, although Stuttgart are even better in this respect, and even defending better, while Wien are defending clearly worse, although they were a lot better. But anyway, this is it's partly contributing to that, and so it's one goal, but it's not 1.25. So anyway, there are good reasons for anyone to cancel this bet as well, because you do not like the line. This one is also just one for sympathy, but Hanover went down. But I always, when I see a team going down by 4 goals, as Hanover did against Nürnberg, and I see they are doing okay, because they are playing well. It's nothing wrong. It's just the other ones. Their tactics are shoot, and the ball is in, right? And this is what happened. And then I see market overreacting usually. And if I get a chance to go for that, but it's not really a chance, so forget it. It's just about the same. It's no margin, even game, and you can, in all respects, you can doubt that, because Hanover are 11.12, Dresden 11.06. You could say, well, they are on eye level. Why would you take this? Well, one of the evenly good sides if they are on the road, and you just get 2.0 or something slightly better, which is not the case even anymore, as I checked, or 2.01 or 2.0 or something. I saw that. So it's not a bet really. Forget it. But I'm going to leave it here, also for sympathy reasons sometimes. St. Pauli plus 0.5. This one goes well because Nürnberg are same thing the other way around. They are market exaggerating with this win, which looks very fine. They played their level, which is okay, but St. Pauli also more or less played their level, which is a bit lower even. But still, if you get half a goal, there's no reason to cancel that. It's an away side. Same thing is here with Jan Regensburg. Sometimes I can't even do much about it because my computer is doing its adjustments according to my, of course, what I told it to do. But with a lot of reason to do so, and then somehow it's turning against the home sides because it's just too many away wins, and I'm adjusting really slowly. I mean, accurately or accordingly. I'm doing it very reasonable. So, but if market doesn't, which seems to be the case, they just say it's a home side. This is the price, and they don't even check those stats also. Though this is pretty curious. But now I even got 2 home sides, so I would have to turn my own argument against myself. Doesn't make much sense. Here I would say Heidenheim, I was still trusting somehow that they are better and they are up here in the table, but they didn't play so well, while Bochum even played better, so you get all reason to cancel this one. But recently I like this a bit better, but I can hardly argue. I mean, it's my settings that are telling me it's sometimes home away, in which Bochum really are low in this ranking, I remember. But I got those figures here. You can forget this one easily, because Bochum had been the better side. But it's my impression that Heidenheim are improving, while Bochum are struggling more and more. And the last games did not impress me. We could see that in the graph that I'm producing, but I can't bring up everything every time. I do not like this one, I do not like this one. I can hardly argue for any one of these. The St. Pauli one sounds very okay, but the others, and also the Osnabrück, is not really a bet, because this is home side. They are the worst side. They are even lower in table against Bielefeld, which are up here, and they played better. So why could I argue even? But as I said, I mean, it's if my figures tell me, then I got some reason to always, because all I would do here by putting it here is my figures are doing fine. What could be wrong, right? So I can put it here or take it away, just ignore it myself. But there's always a good reason to put it here, and then find the argument why it could be. Well, my computer is not making a mistake in calculating this, right? But of course, it gets way too complex then. If you take this into account, then you could say, well, any of these bets is justified. So just put them here, and then we're happy because your program is running well. You can justify this. I've taken them all in here now, because at some point then I think, well, this one is so silly. Oh, ignore it. This one's so silly. So no reason to do that. This one is so silly, and then I think, well, why not put them all down here? And there's not much that can happen to me, right? Because on Monday, or Tuesday in this case, because they are playing on Monday night, we will see what comes out, and then I find it kind of funny too. What what I do with my money is a different story, right? So you can happily, if I tell you what I like and what I dislike, this may be a very decent hint. Anyway, it's 6 of them are really well. I can't say that Wien is a bad one. It's one mathematically, and also the filled one. They can't be bad ones. It's just the lines that I dislike, right? These two, the bottom two, they are just still holding their, what is it, flag unfurled. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, good. I don't know. Here's the over I was talking about for tonight, which is not even supported by the old system, so you can well ignore it. But goal performance is pretty neutral, so you can always say, well, fine, no problem, as long as it's indicated. If the new system insists on it, more or less, right, you will find the reason most likely in the, so it had been the game Darmstadt-Karlsruhe, right? So we're gonna check here whether or not they are over or under sides. Here you see 11.8, 10.17 would be a bit under. That's what I expected, and that's what should have been. That's 1 goal less. But here you see 2.5 goals more than that, right? So you could say, well, that's at least 1.5 goals more. Over 8 games, it's just 0.2. But 0.2, if you divide that, right? But 0.2 is already quite significant. If you see there's just 8.8 to 12 occurring, then you see in all instances they are, so to say, an apparent under, but their efforts are more often over. So it's kind of a hidden over. And the same thing might apply here. Well, this is just pretty meaningless. 12.4, they scored 12, should have had 13.57, but definitely it's not going the wrong direction, right? Because it's 12-14 is already over, but they should have been even 20 more, well, almost 28 goals. It had been 26. So this is guiding the way, right? It's an over. It's kind of a hidden over partly because, but this is what new system tells me, because old system just says, well, no goals, so it would easily accept market's view, right? But this one is a bit, more honest, but you can say, well, if they are not taking their chances, where is the over? They are not taking them again and again. We got this under and filled. I'm going to close the video now. We got this under, which is just ridiculous, but here in this case, the goal performance is neutral, and so you can say, well, it's won by figures. It's not ridiculous. But you can say, well, what are Fürth trying for? They consider it a bonus game and so on. So why should they go for an under? But any of these games might start like an under, because they say we didn't concede yet. Why are we going to lose? And so they defend. Dresden and over under is a very close one. Goal performance above. So you can very easily ignore this one, because goal performance says, no, that's fine. Market's right. In this one, it's a bit different, because Kiel are considered still an over. It's like Hoffenheim from the league above. If you check that, they had been an under by goals that occurred, but here they should have scored more, which I accept. They should have conceded less. So that would suggest, well, okay, at least that's, well, that would be 25, a bit over, so that would be kind of three per game, which is fine. Regensburg, we have, there had been all those over, but they shouldn't have been, right? This is, well, it's close. At least there are 28 goals, but there should have been just 24, okay, I could say 25, so 3 goals too many. Anyway, this doesn't sound like a clear-cut under, but then we got the line, and the line is telling us 3.5, and this is just, I mean, this is half a goal more than, or 1 goal more than here. So, well, what can I say? I mean, this is just a bit too much, because it may be a kind of an over, but not over 3.5, or, well, it's an under 3.5. Heidenheim Bochum, the under, is indicated. It is, as many others, it's just the goal performance is positive, so you can happily overwrite these figures and say, well, for the performance, there have been too many goals. That means I don't want to go for it, or I understand market's price. On the other hand, you could say, well, okay, Bochum are bottom, they need points, definitely. So they are very low here. I mean, Heidenheim would play their normal game, a regular game, but Bochum are down here, so they would say, well, we need some points now. Of course, they could say we need wins, but for the moment, they would be happy not to lose. And this is one thing. But the other thing is, look at the weather. It's getting autumn, very obviously, and it means pitches are not so well. It's getting a bit worse. And also, usually, when it comes to autumn, winter time, all the teams are taking a bit more care for their records, right? For their table needs and so on. So that's usually it's a minor aspect, because if you see that graphically, it's not really that significant. But it's I could show these things, but it's kind of a small tendency. And then you have to look at the game, right? There are pairings which might be inviting more goals, and there are others when you could say, well, it's a bit more of an under. But if I say Hertha is an over, for example, there you could say the same things. I'm only justifying the figures. In this case, I say for the goal performance, you can stay away, but you can also take my other reasons. I'm not going to go through Division 3. Instead, I'm going to leave you now, and I hope you enjoyed it, and share, like, comment, subscribe, as usual, which you may have done, but find some new ones to sign up.